welcome. I'm Krista Gibson with Growing Older and Wiser. And let's face it, we're all going to grow older, what the other option is. So if we're going to grow older anyway, let's grow wiser. Today, I want to talk about resentment. I have talked about this before, but it's coming up more and more for people that I'm aware of, whether I see them on Facebook or personally or whatever, that we have resentments, and resentments don't help us. And part of growing older is we've lived longer and we have the opportunity to have had more resentments. Now, I know you've heard about forgiveness and resentments kind of go together, but I want to go beyond forgiveness because a lot of people do not understand forgiveness. They think it means the other person did nothing wrong. It means that you're absolving them of everything, and you're not. You're helping yourself when you get involved in forgiveness. But I want to talk about resentment. Resentment is something that's kind of like a low boil inside you. You can think about a person or a situation and you feel that kind of unease, dissatisfaction, maybe a low-grade anger, that something is not the way it's supposed to be. The first step is simply acknowledging and owning the fact that you do in fact have some kind of resentment, and don't let yourself feel guilty about it. If you're human, there's times when you have resentment. I mean, let's just be honest. There's times where we're not treated fairly in life or feel that we weren't treated fairly, that someone did us wrong. And it's not unusual to hold a resentment. So the first thing to do is to acknowledge you have resentment or resentments and write them down. Get them out. I love getting them on a piece of paper. Even don't put it in your computer. Put it on a piece of paper because we're going to do something with it. But write down whatever your resentments are. Go through them and acknowledge what happened or didn't happen and why you feel that way, and make it okay. There are no bad feelings. The only thing that comes up bad around feelings is what we do with them. If we hurt ourselves with our feelings or other people, then, that's a problem. But simply to have the feeling is not a problem. So acknowledge the problem, acknowledge the resentments. The next question to ask yourself is this. Is this resentment, let's just talk about it as one. If you have more than one, do this with each of them. Is it serving me? Is it helping me in some way in my life? Is continuing to feel this way about this person, this situation, is it helping me in my life? Is it serving me in some way? If the answer is yes, it is, let's talk about how is it serving me? What kind of good is it bringing into my life? My guess is that the more you go down that road, you're going to eventually end up intersecting with the road that says, no, this resentment really isn't serving me, not helping me, makes me feel bad, makes me uncomfortable, holding me back. I don't like it. Once you can acknowledge that you have the resentment, feel it, acknowledge it's not serving you, then we go to the step of saying, okay, do I want to let go of this resentment, or do I want to carry it around? And only you can answer that. Only you know whether or not having this resentment is something you are willing to let go of. A lot of people aren't. It's kind of like they feel like they deserve to have the resentment because somebody treated them poorly, or a situation. They were fired, or they didn't get the job they wanted and somebody else did. And they feel like it's okay to have that resentment, and good for them. Personally, I don't want to have resentments. I don't want to feel bad about situations. I can acknowledge that something, not so good happened, but I don't have to resent it. Once you've determined that you don't want to keep it, it's not serving you, my suggestion is ask yourself, what actions do I need to take in order to let go of this resentment? Do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to have a meeting with somebody? Do I need to write somebody a letter? Now, in most cases, it is not in your interest to get in touch with a person as such, because in many cases, they don't even know you have resentment. And by talking to them and bringing it up, you can actually create a bigger mess than the one you've got right now. Generally, resentments are very personal. And generally, the other person doesn't even know that you have a resentment. So in some cases, maybe it's good, go talk to them and deal with it. But in other cases, it's not. You can determine that, not me. If there's something you can do about it like that, then go do it. That's pretty simple. No, I know it's not a simple thing to do, but it's simple to decide to go do it. If that isn't the case, Let's look at letting it go. How do you let it go? By following the prior steps that I already gave you. You're well on the right on that edge. Write it down on a piece of paper. Do some ritual. Ritual is so impactful to our inner selves, to our subconscious self, to help us accomplish something. In this case, my favorite thing to do is write it down on a piece of paper, tear the pieces of paper up really, really small, and flush them down the toilet. I don't even have to light a fire. However, there are times when I enjoy creating a little fire in a bowl or in the kitchen sink or whatever, and burning them and transmuting it, and then taking the ashes and burying them outside. There's tons of rituals and ways to do this that is up to you. But you have to follow the prior steps. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is, what about if people have resentment toward you and you don't even know it? And you're picking up on that energy. So you've got this little niggly thing going on in the back of your head and you don't know what it's about. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? That you could actually, not knowing it, be being impacted by somebody else's resentment. What I have done, and there have been situations where I am very sure, without asking them because it wasn't appropriate, that there were people who were resenting me for things they thought I had done that I hadn't done. And I had made it very clear to them that I hadn't done those things, but somebody else was telling them I did, and they chose to believe the other person rather than me. Fine. But I knew that there was resentment there. I also knew that I didn't want this coming into my space and into my life and dragging me down. It's their resentment, not mine. So what I've done in those cases is I have asked the universe, is there anybody out there in a situation, is somebody sending me resentment energies? And if I get a clear yes, I take a piece of paper and I write down, I don't have to know who it is, it could just be unnamed. I just write down resentment toward me. I release it. If there's something I can do to help, make that clear to me. I'm not going to make any effort. I'm not going to rock the boat because I don't know what that might do. And it could be wrong that there's not that resentment. So I write down if there is any resentment, universe. If there's anything I need to do about it, if there's anything I need to know about it, tell me, show me, give me guidance. Other than that, as I tear up this piece of paper or as I burn it, whatever you want to do, I am releasing that resentment from my life. Now, that does not impact the other person. They can continue to have the resentment. If they want it, if it makes them happy, they feel good about it, go for it. But it no longer is allowed into my space. If you do these two things and do them on a regular basis, that's one of the beauties of starting the new year, or in sometimes a new week, where you can sit down and say, okay, do I have any resentments I need to deal with? Good, let's do it. Is anybody resenting me? Good, let's do that too. So I can have as clear an energetic space as possible, so that as I live my life and make my decisions and do the things that I'm here to do, I'm not being held back by my own resentments or anybody else's. I've given you a lot to think about, and I hope that this is helpful to you. And if you feel you don't have any resentments, I'm happy for you. Right now, I don't have any. I've kind of gotten up to date. I don't think I have any. And to my knowledge, there's nobody resenting me at this moment in time. So if you are, let me know if we need to do anything. So look at resentment, see if you need to do anything. If you do, do it. If you don't, celebrate that you don't, and have a fabulous week. Bye now.